Thank you so much, Ambassador and Dr. Janelle. Just well, I'd like to share my PowerPoint. Uh, can you see? Can you see my PowerPoint? Okay. Okay. So especially I'd like to concentrate on difficulties between multilateralism and middle class diplomacy. As Ambassador introduced, kindly introduced. Okay, so I'd like to wrap up this recent work. So especially the Biden administration foreign policy toward Asia, and also the rejoining international institutions, comparing the especially comparative analysis on the Trump and Biden administration. As many speakers mentioned, priority of the Biden administration is domestic issue. And so after COVID-19 economic relief, climate change, racial equality, civil rights, and the immigration system, after that, the American foreign policy came. And of course, the President Biden mentioned America is back. And like recently, the US rejoined many international institutions. The first rejoined in WHO, the COVAX, and the second, the rejoined Paris Accord, climate change, and the third partially rejoined kind of trying to reform the WTO, but still they're keeping like a trade conflict. And fourth, partially they're trying to continue kind of partially in the Pacific initiatives. And fifth, newly they're trying to promote or introduce the kind of infrastructure investment and human rights democratic diplomacy. So questions and key points are here. Why is there gradation of rejoining the international institutions, and what is the impact? What is the impact on Asia? Here are three factors. Probably the first, kind of unified government, so they're going to more left. And factor two is winning issues. So of course, the main issue is COVAX and the COVID-19. And thirdly, the kind of especially by the administration is trying to focus on white working class after the Trump administration. So-called, also some speakers already mentioned, so foreign policy for the middle class. So like Jake Sullivan, especially focused on this phase. And before the presidential elections, already a couple of think tanks, the US think tanks, the research the white working class. However, so as like white working class in Midwest tends to support mild intervention by international assistance. But of course, there is kind of a small question. The definition of middle class, it's very difficult to define. Probably that's not core Trump supporters in Midwest, actually, but white service workers, including urban essential workers, suburban white moms, and probably retired elder white people due to COVID-19. So here, to analyze these points, I'd like to compare a couple of international institutions and also touching upon Asian policy. The first three, as for COVID-19 and WHO, COVAX, so especially the Biden administration is trying to connect COVAX, vaccine diplomacy with Indo-Pacific initiatives also. And the US is trying to return to WHO as the biggest donation country again. And also, probably they're trying to get not only Asian support, but also like African support by vaccine diplomacy. It's very relating with international institutions and voting, how to say, the kind of top of the international institution is really depending on African countries also. And the second point is the Paris Accord and climate change. That was symbolic achievement between the US and China under the Obama administration. However, the Biden administration is careful on compromise due to alliance management. As we know, for example, Alaska diplomatic talks of US-China is a little different from the previous Obama administration. And as for third, WTO reform and trade conflict, so still there is Sanction 301 and 25% tariff on most Chinese goods. But so already Japan are okay. Also Canada and Mexico reformed their kind of trade agreement partially. So probably still Chinese part remains, and probably also the U.S. criticism on WTO is focusing on special privilege for developing countries. So that talk was not only Trump administration, but also from the Obama administration, and still the Biden administration is discussing the same thing. So we are okay. Taiwan, Brazil, Singapore accepted, but still China and India are trying to keep the privilege of developing country. So probably that's a kind of core issue on WTO reform. And as the fourth is the Indo-Pacific strategy. So they made the new position for Indo-Pacific strategy, the so-called coordinator for the Indo-Pacific in NSC. However, someone also mentioned US. This is kind of US people's Asia without TPP, so without economic trade agreement. But however, they are trying to add the vaccine diplomacy or digital supply chain and the democratic partnership. So I am not sure, but also they are trying to keep amount of defense budget. But however, the kind of quality of equipment seems a little different due to according to budget plan. So it seems it has changed a little bit. And fifth, President Biden and the G7 leaders launched Build Back Better World Partnership recently. And this is a kind of affirmative initiative for meeting the tremendous infrastructure needs of low middle income countries. So this is really a little matching the middle class diplomacy, as I mentioned. And probably this idea is a kind of a counter project of One Belt, One Road. So of course still there is no RCEP or TPP, but they are trying to disperse, I guess. And as for Human Rights and Democracy Alliance, so someone mentioned, so actually President Trump is not really interested in human rights or democratic alliance really. However, Republican Party itself is trying to support the kind of partial sanctions based on the new U.S. law to protect human rights and democracy. But since 2020, so that's a new issue. Actually, that was yes. So not only Democratic Party but also Republican Party is supporting these issues. And as for Biden, the President Biden mentioned the democracy summit. However, of course, it seems very difficult. Okay, so last part.
Wind up.
Okay, so the conclusion, the kind of the Biden administration foreign policy towards Asia is between the Obama administration and the Trump administration, and adding the promoting vaccine diplomacy, human rights, democratic cooperation, and the world infrastructure investment. Of course, there are still obstacles, but thank you so much.